So just kind of a quick recap for those that are joining, because we started talking, we were talking about why AWS was why we're focusing on AWS. And I made the statement that I thought Amazon was way above the other ones in terms of size. So we started poking around here. This is from 2018, and Amazon had a big lead. But I think what we're seeing is that as we get closer to 2020, so here's 19 with Azure gaining on them. I don't know if I can find anything from in 2021. Let's see if we can find anything along that one. No. So here's AWS. So Azure's keeping up with them. So I maybe if you're looking for them, AWS is still obviously larger, but Azure, which is Microsoft's solution to cloud, it's not that far behind. I mean, it's getting there. So, well, actually, so 12 versus 8. So there's like $4 billion. There's some differences between that. Let's see. This is, I don't know. I was hoping I'd have something that just would have like some huge numbers on here. This is 2021. Okay.
I don't know if this is any good. Parkmycloud.com, and it goes by quarter from 2016 to Q1 of 2021. I'm sure it's. Oh, okay, that's a little.
That same one?
That's not. Well, I'm looking at like a bar chart, but I mean it's fine. I mean, so it sounds like Amazon's currently on top, but Microsoft and Google are kind of closing the gap, or Microsoft's closing the gap and Google's.
Yeah, so Azure is Microsoft, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're at 2.5 billion millions in quarter, and Azure, actually they don't have the other ones on there, but I don't think it was on here. Anyway, so so the answer was AWS is the market leader, so that's why we focus on it. Their certification is probably more well respected in the industry when it comes to what you're going to do with it. Although you probably want to keep monitoring what Microsoft and Azure is doing, and even Google Cloud, but Google Cloud has been trying to do stuff for a while and it just never seemed to get there. So I would say Microsoft and Amazon are probably the two that are going to be the driving force for job opportunities as it goes. So okay, so let me drop this over here. And so let's see here. I think you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let's go ahead and oops. So just kind of quick recap. So we're working on this certification right there. As I mentioned last week, I think I'm going to try to go up this path. This one right here, if you have that certification, you normally can get a job with no other background. So, but it's going to take a while. I did talk to my son who's going through the same training at State Farm, and his teacher is actually a solutions architect professional. And he said he only spent about 6 months with AWS before he got certified. So they talk about, this says 2 years of comprehensive. He did it and learned it with only 6 months of just hands-on stuff with it. So it's possible to get all the way up here without really getting it, getting experience with it. I would imagine getting up here with limited experience, it makes it a little less valuable because people are going to ask you questions that it goes along with it. But anyway, so that's the path we're working on. We always want to come back to our overview of topic areas. So last week we did a little bit of cloud concepts. We talked about high availability, scalable, elastic, metered pricing. So we talked about some of the concepts in there. We will spend more time in that area in future classes, but we wanted to get kind of the leveling of the playing field with some of the terminology. So hopefully you remember those concepts, because those are things that are definitely going to be tested as part of the exam. Today we're going to go down, we're going to do some billing and pricing. There's a lot of questions that are about the free tier system and how cloud can save you money and how it's billed out and how you can monitor it. So we're going to work on that piece of it this week. And then next week, I think we're going to hit security and compliance. And the week after, we'll talk about some of the technologies, and we'll come back. We'll hit all these topics again multiple times, but that's kind of the first pass through this. Just kind of quick recap from last week. We talked about this. So availability, you have these dispersed data centers all across the globe. So if something goes wrong, some hurricane or earthquake or tornado wipes out one, you have the availability to pick them up from other data centers. So that's the benefit of cloud, is the redundancy that comes along with it. Metered costs we're going to work on today, so I won't go into that anymore in depth. What are the forms of cloud services? So that's that infrastructure where you don't have to manage the hardware, the network, your servers. The AWS team does all of that infrastructure management for you. So that's one of the benefits. Meterless costs, we'll talk about that a little bit today. Scalability, so as your need goes up, they add more and more servers or more and more assets or instances to allow you to meet those needs as they come up. And then as the needs go down, the elasticity brings the back down to your default, so you're not paying for stuff that is not being used. So scalable allows you to pay for services so that you can meet the demands. Elasticity allows you to save the cost as demands go down. I'm going to keep drilling this stuff in, just like the stuff we talked about tonight. I'll have a slide that talks about that, and these will kind of become our notes and our lessons to make sure that we can talk about it. So any questions about these terms that we talked about last week? Maybe some of them kind of percolate around your brain going, you know what, I didn't really fully understand that, or can you explain it a little bit different? How you doing with anything along those lines?
I'm okay. A few months back, I started the essentials, and I only got probably halfway through, but I think I have a fair understanding of what most of these terms mean.
Okay, good. Okay, so these are some services. We're actually going to look at some of these today. We're going to go into the AWS workspace, and we're going to pull up some of these and see how the pricing is handled. Out of all I've done enough practice tests and I watched enough videos. These are the ones that are mentioned the most often, with these in the first column being the most and these being a little bit less. I should probably move Lambda services over to this side because it is pretty prevalent right now. But for now, this is what you want to focus on in terms of it. There's another probably 100 services that are in the AWS console that we could spend time with, but obviously we want to maximize our time and focus on things that'll add the most value. So staying focused on these services will do that for us. Okay, so let's talk about billing and pricing. There is this free tier. So if you've never been on AWS before and created an account, when you first sign up, you put a credit card in there, but they give you 12 months of this, what's called a free tier. And free tier, there was one practice test I think I took that there was probably about 5 questions about free tier. So out of your 65 questions, 5 of them, at least on one of my tests, mentions free tier verbatim and talks about the benefits and how it's used. So you need to understand what that free tier means. Now, I've been on longer than 12 months. So when you look at my account, you might not see those free tiers. Your free tier basically means you have 750 hours free for the first 12 months per month. Actually, I should probably fix that. So you get 750 hours per month free for a lot of the different tools or services that are available on the AWS console. Now, if you do the math, 24 hours a day times 30 days. So let me do my calculator here. So 24 times 31 days equals 744 hours. So you wonder how they came up with 750? They took how many hours are in a day and took the longest month of 31 and gave you those free hours. So it allows you to have a service running full time per month for 12 months, and you won't have to pay anything. Now, there are some caveats there, and we're going to go over some of those today. But if you run one service and it only runs for, like, you don't run them in parallel, like you don't have 2 different things running. If you run one for the whole month, you can leave it on for the full year and never pay a penny out of yours, on your credit card. So even though you put your credit card in essence, most of the services you run for that first 12 months will be free. Now, some services, some of these very light services, and we'll talk about what light means here when we get into the console and look around with it, they still have free tiers beyond the 12 months. And in fact, some of the stuff that I can do is I can spin up an EC2 instance with a Linux-based backend and run that in a free tier, where as long as I don't go over hours, I don't have to pay anything. It gives you a chance to kind of play around with some components. I wouldn't necessarily leave it running for the full month, because potentially you could have some things that cross some thresholds and have some charges. And in fact, if we look at my billing, which I'll pull up, I think I average about $30 a month, because I have things I just forget to turn off. Even though some of them are in the free tier, it's just that I run two at the same time, and then you don't get that free benefit that comes along with it.
Is that just stuff that you do at home, or is it stuff you do for school, or what?
Mainly it's home stuff, playing around with some things. I'm going to start playing around with SageMaker, which is their AI system. I want to spin up some EC2 instances with some load balancers to see how that process works. And I'll record how I do that, so you guys can see kind of like my playing around with it. But it's more just for learning. I'm fascinated with the cloud. I grew up with the premise stuff where I think I told you we had a data center in our first floor for a company I worked at, where you had all these servers lined up and the blinking lights, and you had air conditioning blowing in there, because if you didn't, it would heat up. I mean, those servers were throwing off a lot of heat.
Yeah.
You had to raise floors, you had to run cables and everything like that. And that ran websites that produced, millions of dollars a year in business. And now all that infrastructure that was there to support it's gone, because it's now hosted on the cloud. And there's just so many things to play with. I mean, I don't have to buy pieces of hardware and set them all up in my office or my home, and have like a box for Linux and a box for Windows and a box for Ubuntu and a box for Kali. I can do all of that configuration by clicking a couple buttons if I'm willing to pay. Well, if I was going to buy a computer that could run some of that stuff, you might spend $500-600, and that's a cheap computer. And it would take me, probably 3 or 4 years to get that off of a computer or off a cloud platform. So that's one of the benefits. And actually, that leads me right into the next one here. So this T2 Micro is a small size computer that we can run on the EC2, an elastic container, and it's billed at like a little over 1 penny per hour. So over the course of a day, that would be 24 cents to run that. That's crazy cheap. You can't buy anything for 24 cents, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so or probably 30 cents, we get a couple pennies in there. But if I want to, like, say, experiment with a new operating system, I could say I'm going to spin this up, pay my 25 cents, and shut it down at the end of the day, and delete it so it doesn't automatically start up. That's one of the drawbacks for some of the services. They automatically restart, which is where you kind of run into problems with your billing, because you turn it off, but you don't delete it. And if some of the services, if you don't use it within 7 days, it comes back on. And I don't know what the reason is. Probably to make money. It's probably the money making thing, because everything else is so cheap. But anyway, let's go explore some of these things and some of these services. We're going to actually look at, we're going to spend some time with the EC2 compute cloud. We're going to do some storage services stuff here, and we'll probably go spin up a relational database and that stuff. And we'll work on those three. If we have some time, we'll go look at some of these other services that bill a little bit different. But we're also going to look at how the budgeting is handled. So let me go ahead and exit that and jump over here to the management console. Go ahead and maximize that. So if you've been in some stuff, these are some ones that I've recently been in for all services. But if you want to see all of them, you can just expand that out, or you can expand this here at the top. And these are all the different services that I talked about. Like I said, we're going to focus on about 15, 16, 17 of them. We're never going to get to glue data brew or lake formation or IoT, any of these IoT things probably, although some of these would be kind of fun to play around with. I think I did tell you that I'm going to play around with the Deep Racer here, which is that remote control car. And I am going to start playing around with SageMaker, which is right here, which is probably one of the best machine learning platforms out there. And I don't know, we might play around with a couple of the other ones just to show you what they can do with it. But again, we were trying to focus our attention so we don't get distracted. But let's go ahead and depict this EC2. And if you have an account, you're more than welcome to follow along in here. Just make sure that we shut everything down when you're done. But I'm just going to go to EC2. And I don't think I have any instances created right now. So it should show me an empty thing here. And yeah, so I have no instances running. I have no instances created. I have no volumes. I have no dedicated hosts, key pairs for security. I do have one security group. Security groups, I don't think that are being charged or anything. So we've got a bunch of things we can see here. We can see scheduled events. So my region I'm in right now is North Virginia. You can see that up here. These are all the different regions that I can spin stuff up in. Normally you work closest to your area. So I'm in Phoenix, so I probably would pick either Oregon, North Carolina. I mean, any of these work, but it looks like I'm defaulted right now to North Virginia. And I can make duplicates in multiple regions. We'll talk about availability and redundancy in future classes. These are just regions. Just know that your services are created in regions. That's important piece to understand, is that you create it. So if I create an EC2 in East US, and then I create another one in US West, it creates the exact same thing. There are two different ones. If I try to create two in East and I name them the same thing, they're not going to let me do it. So there's some things you run into from that. And then notice there's also zones within that one. So these are all my regions. These are all of my zones. So I can actually have additional redundancy across regions and into the various zones. And again, we'll talk about that more in future classes. But anyway, let's go ahead and spin one of these up and look at some of these prices. So we're going to go ahead and launch a new instance, which means we're going to make it. An instance is going to take space on a piece of physical hardware somewhere in the data center in North Virginia and divvy it up for me to use. I could be sharing that piece of hardware with 10, 15, 100 other users, but it's going to create a space for me on one physical box in the North Virginia region here. So I'm going to go ahead and click Launch Instance and Launch Instance. These are all of the different operating systems that I can run on. So if I want to create a Linux one, which is a Linux operating system, or I want to create an Apple, Big Sur, Catalina, Mojave, if I want to go back, there's the Red Hat, Ubuntu, one of the free ones, Windows Services, Deep Learning AMI from Ubuntu, we've got Debian, Microsoft Windows Services, all those kind of fun stuff. And you can keep going down. There's a SUSE Linux, lots of Microsoft. Notice these are all different versions of Microsoft. Some have SQL Server installed, some don't. Windows Server 2012, 2016, 2022. So lots of those there, and Red Hat. So, and they also tell you what type of processing power you want to grab with it. I don't think we have anything here. Oh yeah, so here's the checkbox. So mine, I don't have those free 24 or 750 hours. So if I want to see which of these are free, watch how this is going to go down quite a bit. So it says right now there's 44. Mac should go away, and almost all the Windows ones should go away as soon as I click free tier. So I click free tier. So now I have Linux, Red Hat, SUSE, Ubuntu. I do have a couple Windows services that I can run. How much did it go down to? It went down by way over half. So I'm down to only 17. So these are ones that I can create instances that are still free. So notice they're free tier eligible. It does not mean they're free. And that's where we're going to go to the next one. And we're going to see the pricing that goes along with this various pieces of it. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with this Linux one. Just because that's what I'm probably most familiar with, although Ubuntu is probably pretty popular now. It tells you what kind of volume. So I have a solid state drive on this one, 5 years of support, latest software packages, blah, blah, blah. So let's go ahead and select that one. I can run this on different processors. I can run this on a Intel, or I can run this on an AMD processor if that makes a difference. Some applications run better on different processors. So we'll stick with the Intel one. Okay, so here, T2 micro, there's that free tier eligible. Okay, all the rest of these are not free tier. Anything that I go above that is going to have a cost associated with it. And the naming convention is pretty similar. So anything, Nano probably would be free, although this is the one that they're probably doing it. So So notice they start off nano, micro, small, medium, large, and these are T2s, which I think the T component is, I think with the cores, I'm not 100% sure. Then it goes up to T3s and they start off again at nano, micro, and work their way down to 2XL. And then it goes to these huge ones up here. These are not free tier eligible. They're all blocked off. And then it looks like here your network performance, your storage, how you're going to store your stuff, how many virtual CPUs. So these are 1 CPU, 2 CPUs, 4, 8. And if you get down here, you get some really huge ones. I want to say 36 CPUs, 96 CPUs. I don't know if these are free tier. I'm not sure why they would. I guess we'd pay for that one. Let's go ahead and stick with our free tier one. Let's not pick free. Let's go one up here just to show what happens with it. So good. We can go ahead. I don't want to launch this because we'd end up paying for it, but we'll go to somewhere else and we'll play around with that stuff. But actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and click this free will. Let's go ahead and launch and review this one. Okay, so now we can configure some stuff and we can add additional things to it. So there's our instance type. There's our security group. So I had to create a security group a while ago. Instance details. There's all of our instance stuff. Here's storage. If I need to add storage to it, I'm pretty sure I can add in here. Maybe I can't add. I thought I could add. Maybe because I click free tier, I don't have access to add anything with it. Improve your instances. Let's go back and pick a different one. Instance. Let's do the Mac one here. Let's see what happens with that one. There's all those processors. Nothing is free tier. Oh, it looks like there's one that was free tier. When your trial ends, or if usage exceeds free trial, you'll pay a standard. So I don't have free tier. I think that's the saying that I don't have my 12-month. That's probably why mine's grayed out for that piece here. So if I go to review and launch here, can I add data? Edit storage.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so if I want to change the size here or add volumes, I can start doing this. I can say instead of that, I want 120 gigabytes and I want it storage, and I can, I'm not sure what these different ones in there, but how fast they go, general purpose. So we'll go ahead and add another volume. We'll put another 120 on here because we're going to store a lot of pictures on it. And review and launch. Your instance is now not eligible for free tier. So as I start changing things, it's gonna bounce it out of it. And I'm pretty sure. Well, I don't know if I want to click launch. So I don't want to do the key pair here because that's something we're going to talk about later. But for security purposes, you need to create public keys and put them on your computer so that your computer can talk to the cloud and have guaranteed security between that stuff. So I guess we're not going to actually launch anything today because I didn't know we had to do public keys. That's relatively new. I think they changed that. You don't have to create a new peak here by selecting. Yeah, we don't want to go down that process here. So can I say create? Proceed without. I'll proceed. Okay, there, proceed without. See, it's warning you. I cannot connect to this instance by using EC2, or if I know the password. Note that EC2 instance connect is only supported by Amazon. So maybe I probably should have went with a different one. Let's go back here and do this again. And let's pick those one here. I think it said this one allowed us to do it. Let's pick something. Well, I think we can do that. Let's see if maybe I missed the step where I can click add. Oh, there it is, edit storage. Okay, so let's go ahead and change this. And it should take me out of free tier. I'm not going to add a second one. Just go ahead and add this one here. Nope, not quite that. Oh, that's why I had a bunch there. Can I say delete? This is one of the things that can get you caught. So if you don't delete on termination, these storage spaces add up. That's got me a couple times where I've created my services and I didn't have delete on termination. And then I look and I have these storage banks that are charging me, a couple pennies a day that adds up after a period of time, or a couple pennies an hour. So make sure when you delete your instance that you delete all of your storage stuff that goes along with it. So let's go click review and launch there. Your instance is no longer eligible for free. Let's go ahead and click launch. They're going to pop up. Proceed without key. I acknowledge and launch instance. Let's see if that allows me to do it. So it takes a while to spin up. But before, let's picture back, like in the early 2000s, I would have had to have a server in front of me. I would have had to have my disk, my CD, my ROM, whatever, or some kind of shared drive. I'd have to plug it in, type all the commands to install it, and it could take like a half hour to install everything and get it configured. This one's going to be up and running in probably about 2 minutes. You'll see that as I go through here. Is it giving me any type of stuff? Not giving me any numbers right now. So it's in the process of configuring. Oh, it says pending. Instance states pending. Can I expand that? It's probably showing me what's going on here. You can sometimes track what actually is happening for that piece of it. So security networking, it'll tell you how to access this one. So there's my IP address. Because it's not a computer right in front of you, it's on the network. You're going to have to connect across the internet, hence the cloud piece of it, to get to it. I would use these with some kind of shell tool, telnet window, SSH, whatever, to get to it. I'm wondering if it's going to even let me access it because I don't have any of those keys set up for it. When this is done, oh, it says it's running. Let's go ahead and try to see what happens if I go right to it. Now let's just go ahead and drop this in. I don't think there's any web server running on it, so it shouldn't actually show me anything. It's probably saying it can't find it. It doesn't look like it's going to find it. I could, we can try this. Let's try accessing it from a telnet terminal window here. So let's try to ping it. Timeout. So we don't have ping turned on, so that's not going to work. So anyway, it's out there. We got to it. It just didn't return any information for it, and we can't connect to it. So we'll cover what EC2s can do, but that's kind of the things you need to know. So let me go ahead and delete this now. Action, instance state, terminate instance. That should get rid of it. We deleted, yes. Terminate, good. And successfully terminated. So when I come back now to my instances, it should not be there. And it's still there. It's probably in the process shutting down. See, it's got the shutting down process. It tells you the instance type, tells you we have an alarm, tells you where it's created. It was created in availability zone. So regions, that's the other one. I'm sorry, I think I mentioned availability zones, but you need to know that the hierarchy is you have regions, and in regions, you have availability zones. So you need to know how that process, those pieces fit together for it. Go ahead and refresh this and see if I have any. I have no instances, so good. Everything got deleted. I should not be charged for anything along that line. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at how you budget some of this stuff. So I got a website here. This is a tool that Amazon makes available to you. This is what, like if I was going to create a whole environment, I might come here to try to figure out what it's going to cost. So here's my Amazon EC2 instances. So we just went through this process. If I want to add a new row, I can say this is going to be server 1. I can go ahead and give it a name. And then I can tell it what type I want. So how many instances, maybe I want 2 or 3 instances of that one type. Am I going to utilize it fully for the whole month? Maybe I'll only use it for 50% of the month. But if I click this, these are all the things we saw on the other one. But this one tells us pricing. So if I want to know what they charge, so if I want to see this 16 CPU A1 X4 large with 32 gigs of memory, I'm going to pay right here 40 cents an hour, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if I take 40 cents and I multiply it, well, actually, if I just click it, it'll tell me what the annual charge is. So let's go ahead and click that. Close and save. That's going to charge me $298 a month to have that running 24 hours a day for 31 days. Now I can change this. I can say I'm only going to use it for half the time, half the month, and it'll do the update for it. And if you want to compare prices here, I can then take server 2 And instead of doing a large one, we'll go ahead and grab one of these small ones. Where's that T one that we were doing earlier to show you what the savings is? Look at all these different ones. So there's my T2 micro. Where's my T2 micro? This one. Save and close. That one's only $8.50 a month using that full time. So there's no discount on that one, but $8.50. And if I say I want 2 instances, there it goes to 17. So you can kind of build what you want of EC2 instances. Let's go ahead and add another one. We'll call this one server 3. And this tool, by the way, this Simply Monthly Calculator is when it talks about free tier and how to make sure you don't go over. This is your tool that you would go to make sure you don't go over your piece of it, because you can put in your when you have free tier, it should keep track of that. Let's come back here and let's go with Windows here. Windows ones are usually pretty expensive. Let's go with that. Oh, yeah, we didn't click the operating systems before. Notice I can't even run Windows on all the operating systems. See how it's all grays out? As soon as I go to Windows, I have to have certain number of CPUs, and I have to probably have IO stuff that goes along with it. But these get a lot more expensive. Look at this.
Oh boy. Whoa, my goodness.
So let's go ahead and pick one of these large ones here and say we're going to run some crazy thing. $32,000 a month. So, but now you have to remember to buy a server like this that has all this stuff on there is probably a couple $100,000 to buy that server, or maybe not. Maybe it's $100,000 to buy that server. And then you have to have the people go in that to control it and manage it. That only gives you one, and you can't spin them up very quickly. So Windows, the operating system by itself is expensive, especially the enterprise SQL Server version of it. So you're paying for your operating system. Here, Linux is a free operating system. You're probably paying a licensing fee for it. So a small piece of this cost goes to licensing. But here you're paying Microsoft a boatload of money, because normally the Microsoft piece is billed by the CPUs or the cores. And that one, I think we put a lot in there. So from this one, know that when you create instances, you have the ability to configure it the way you want, including your operating systems, how many CPUs, how many gigabytes of RAM, memory you have, what your network connection, your IO piece comes along, and you can build it to fit your budget. If my budget is only 30,000 or $30, you have certain limits of things you can do. I probably can't do Windows. Here, I went down to Windows, just Windows without the enterprise SQL Server. And now I'm back down to what you would expect, 19 cents per hour. So if I click that one and add that one, that's $140, which is about the same that I paid up here for my my Linux one on top of that one. So okay, so I'm not going to do dedicated host, but I thought there was a way to do S3 instances. Where do I do? Oh, over here, maybe. Free website. Oh, these are common starter ones. So if you wanted to over here, this is where I can go. So these are the so here's S3. I talked about S3 is your storage. So if I want to put storage in here, I can put what I'm going to do with it. So just a flat out storage. I want to create 100 gigabyte storage. It should price that out for me. Excuse me. Newer calculator. Let's see, does it actually give me the option there? Okay, 10 gigabytes, show calculations, standard monthly cost. So storage is not expensive. I mean, right? So I got 23 cents a month to host 10 gigabytes, but most people aren't going to do 10 gigabytes. So if we do 100 gigabytes, now it's up to $230 a month. If I want to do a lot of sends back and forth, so if we're going to put stuff in the storage and put it out, we can put in here. Notice that it doesn't change a lot, but it does talk about puts. So your standard storage is $2.30, and then for 1,000 puts, which means I'm going to put data into my my hard drive. I probably would want to get stuff out too. So let's say for every 1,000 I put in, I take 1,000 out. It's not being a big difference. I'm only going up a couple pennies, but once your servers get bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden you're doing 10,000 or 100,000, figure about every file you save, how many times you go back into it. So it's still not very expensive with it. Data return amounts. So if we're going to return, say we're going to return 20 gigabytes, and data scan, we're going to do 25 gigabytes. That's still not bad, $209. So if you ever need to store a lot of stuff for a space, you can actually store it on here a lot cheaper than I thought it was. I thought this used to be more expensive. If I put this at let's see, 1,000, which would be a terabyte, $23 a month. I don't know, that's not too bad. I don't think we have to worry about the rest of that stuff. Does this actually go back now when I go back to my calculator? Does it add it in? I think I just lost my my calculator part here. So let's see if I can go back into here.
They have an API gateway, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah, so API, because that goes, I think you get 1 million free API requests. So it's going to be a while before you get to it. I mean, the good problem you could have is to have too many to go over that. But I don't know if I could price out the calculator. Let's see if I can do the API gateway. Let's create an estimate here.
And access to that my SQL database is pretty pricey, but it's a pretty big database, I guess.
It shouldn't be too pricey. Are you in there looking around at pricing for the relational database?
No, when you did the Amazon the Windows with MySQL, it was like exponentially more expensive than just Windows by itself.
Yeah, I'm going to show you some difference because it's Microsoft and it's Enterprise SQL. So so here, let's do these. So select the number of units, frequency. So how many requests we're going to have? We're going to have 1 million requests per month. Average request size. Actually, we're not going to do HTTP. We're going to do, sorry, take that out of there. We're going to do REST APIs here. Cache memory, WebSocket we're going to do. That doesn't seem right. What did I put in there first?
Oh boy.
Oh, I have 1 million requests.
Okay.
There you go.
Jeez.
So I was having 1 million requests. So yeah, as it can, whoops, what did I lost my API part of it. A little concerned of how this jumps around back and forth for it. So it should keep a tally at the very end. You should be able to print this out and take it back to your boss and show you what you're putting together. But so yeah, 1 million. The unit will apply to the number of requests you specify below. Yeah. So let's go ahead and put in, let's do billion. Let's see what 1 billion does per month. 3,000. So again, if you have 1 billion API requests, I mean, you're making money, right? Something's going on with it. But if you're just doing this for testing purposes, you're never going to get to 1 million, even if you're by yourself. So let's see if we can do 0.75. I know there is free ones. I don't know if this is going to give me a free per month. No, it looks like everything's, as long as I'm at 1 million. Let's do 1,000. I think it had 1,000 was one of these. Oh, these are not that. Come back down here. Thousands, and we're going to do 1,000. Yeah, that's free. 10,000, 4 cents. So
okay, right.
not a big charge for that, the piece that goes along with it. Now let's do where's our relational database stuff. So so here's a relational database. This is a MySQL compatible database, and we can configure it. How many nodes we have, the size of stuff we're going to put in there, general purposes, pricing model. I don't think we need to customize. How much space do we need? Let's go ahead and put our 100 gigabytes into that. Reads per second, we're going to keep all of those the same. So see, it's still $70, but it's not thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right.
I think that's even because I picked here a different size. Let's see if I go down to a small, or where's the T2? Actually, it's micro. As long as you pick micro, and micro is pretty large. I mean, from Amazon's perspective, micro is small, but for a lot of stuff we're doing, micro is probably fine. It doesn't look like they have a micro size, but where's the small? Let's do small here. $40. So about half price for that piece of it. And that actually installs SQL, gives you the connections, gives you the control panel. So it gives you almost everything that you want, that you can do with your MySQL, and you don't have to do any installs. So, but this starts adding up. Actually, so here's storage cost and your database, which is the Amazon one. So it's $29 for the database and $11 for storage. So that's one piece that goes in there. Okay, so there's one more calculator I want to show you here, and this one I've never actually used, but they do talk about it. Let me go ahead and put this one in here. So this is total cost of ownership. This is actually what I think I was just in. Let's see if I actually, let me go ahead and see if it actually builds me my chart here. That's what I was trying to do. Add to my estimate. Okay, and we're going to add a service, and we want to EC2. There's the EC2, and we need, we'll just do a quick estimate for that one. So 64, add to my estimate, add a service. Let's go ahead and add in our database. We'll just use the defaults for all that stuff. Okay, so here is my monthly cost, $124. It gives me the cost per the month. So this is what's called total cost of ownership. Of all the stuff put together, it's going to give you, for the 12 months, I would need a budget of about $1,500. Now, can I go over it? Yes. If you know, we talked about the scalability and the elasticity. So if I'm putting here that it can grow by needs, it's possible to go higher to it, but this is my estimate that I feel the strongest with, and I can go ahead and run with that one. So if I wanted to go to my boss. So the two calculators you need to know with are the simple monthly calculator, which was that first one that kind of had the little pluses and you kind of added some stuff together. This is the total cost of ownership calculator that gives you everything and allows you to, you know, you can clone a service, delete it. I could edit the various pieces of it. So maybe I didn't want to spend $64 on my EC2. I could come in here and see what is costing the most money. So I don't really need 4 CPUs. We can go ahead, and I don't need 16. So let's go ahead and change the size. Allow me to change the size. Actually, I've got to go to advanced estimate. And then, so yeah, here's your traffic. Am I getting a constant state of traffic, or am I going to have spikes? So if I go monthly spike and I tell, here's the size, any CPU, I'm going to pick that nano. And there's my savings plan. Oh, these pricing things. This is kind of important. I don't know if I have enough time to get into some of this stuff. So you pay a flat fee for your services. But if you say I only need it during certain times, you can do an on demand and reserve it. Say I want to reserve space. Basically, I'm going to prepay for space and CPU utilization. Or I can say I'm only going to pay when I need it. Or I can have a savings plan which says I'm guaranteeing so many hours, but I'm not going to pay the full price. I can do spot where, you know, your capacity for 90%, I'm only going to use it when no one else is using it. So Amazon can tell you when you can use it. You're kind of like saying, I'll fill in the gaps, but I'm not going to need it all the day long. So, so here is the reservation option. I'm going to go ahead and pick on demand, and learn more how calculator. Actually, the spot one's the cheapest. Let's go with spot here. And let's go ahead and I need it 2 times a day, storage space. Let's go ahead and save that. So it was, look at, we dropped quite a bit because we changed some of those configurations with it. Whoops. I think it was $112 a month and like $1,300 for the year. And now we're down to $740. So you can play around with these numbers to get to a price range that you could possibly need. But you need to understand the concept. You understand, you pick the size, you pick what type of instance you want. So EC2 for your processing, S3 for your storage, API for your REST calls. You pick how big of hardware you need to put it on. Do I need 2 CPUs, 4 CPUs, 16 CPUs? Do I need 1 CPU? How much RAM do I need? Do I need those 2, 4, 16 RAM? You say, how often am I going to use it? You tell it what region you want and what availability zone you want. So there's that region There's my regions. These are all listed in your East one. You then use your calculators to figure out what you think your cost is going to be. You put all your stuff in there and then use your total cost of ownership to add all of your stuff together to give you what your monthly cost is going to be. And those are based on per hour charges, which all the stuff in Amazon's based on. You need to know that Amazon bills you per hour for the stuff, most of the stuff we're talking about. There are some things that are not billed by the hour, but most of the things we're talking about, the storage, the storage was not by hour, it was actually by month. I think we just paid that. I don't think there was I don't think you said how many hours you needed the storage. I think that was just a flat fee. So if I come down here, do I not have an S3 here?
So every other month, you're gonna get like a free day then, I guess. Huh?
Yes, true. I mean, yeah, because you're paying, yeah, you're right. If you're 30 days, 31 days. I'll actually come back here. S3 should be in here too. So where is S3? I'm just curious if they tell us by month. S3 Glacier.
That's very odd that they do this by the month instead of the quarter.
Well, it tries to keep it as small as possible. Technically, you could do it by the day. You can set a server up for one day and have it terminate at the end of the day. If you only need it, like say I'm running a batch process that I'm only going to put some stuff up for a short period of time. I could spin up a server, run it for a day and shut it down. In which case there's no ongoing charge. For the other ones, I mean, even though they bill you by the month, they only bill you by your hour usage. So actually take it back. It's actually being charged by the hour. So if I run it for 1 hour, I only pay for 1 hour. They don't round it up to the next, day or next month or next quarter or next year. You're only paying for exactly what you use. I don't think they go smaller than a minute. I don't think if you use it for like half a minute, if they give you half the benefit of it. That's a good question. I've never seen that come up on any of the talking points. So I don't think that's the case, but okay. So here's S3 services. And we need 100 gigabytes. I don't think I need to fill those in, but let's go ahead and see. So 230. Yeah, there's nothing in here that says, how many days you need it. It just says, so that is going to be your monthly cost. If I happen to shut it down halfway through, I would only pay half of that.
Okay.
So that you can't say I'm going to use it for less than a month, but if you shut it down, you're not going to pay for the rest of that month. So it's not, again, it doesn't round up for those components. And if I add that to my estimate, there's my estimate. So now I have a storage service, I have a database, I have my processing. And this is a pretty standard configuration, by the way. I would run my web server. I would have my APA gateway that allows people to get into it, do some security. I host my MySQL database and I store stuff in a static database. So in this environment, this runs probably 90% of the websites on the internet. Costs you $77 a month, $926 a year. And that's pretty comparable. There's a lot of services out there that might do it cheaper, but if you're going to run and have the configuration capabilities that you have here, that's a pretty reasonable cost. It might not seem so right now, but it can be.
So you essentially just bypassed creating a server farm, leasing the property, building the building, paying the electricity by doing this. Okay,
Exactly.
that's
Yep.
very interesting.
Yeah, and you shut them down, you spin them up. So let's say it's Black Friday, and I need I need some more gateway stuff. I could spin up a gateway service or spin up another EC2, or I could have it automatically configured as the network capacity reaches thresholds to automatically spin them up and add them into that. We haven't talked about the automated process of spinning stuff up. We just talked about this part of it, but no, good questions. So key things are you create it in a region. You tell it what type of service you need. You tell it what size of service, whether it's CPUs or RAM or storage space. You put it together. You get your total cost of ownership, or if you get your simple monthly calculator, if you just want to see what it's going to run. There are some other stuff inside of here, but I don't think we're going to get into that any further. So it looks like it doesn't know I'm signed in, which is kind of odd because it says I'm signed in.
Like, how does it get in your cost basis? if you're not
Well,
signed
cost
in?
is the same for everybody.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
so which is interesting because, you know, whether I'm Walmart and I need a server or I'm Rob Loy, I need a server, everyone's paying the same thing. You do have volume stuff. So as you get a little further into it, you like this part here where the pricing was, where's the pricing part? This part here, you can get deals in here, and then it's tied to your account. Historical average discount is 57%. Spot discounts. So there's some discount that's got associated with that. If I go to a savings plan, does it give me a discount for that one? Oh, so here, the longer I guarantee I'm going to use it, I can get my costs
Oh, there you go.
down
Okay.
too. So you can do stuff like that. I've never done that because I'm not in a size, but this is one of those things that as you get more experience with the AWS platform, you're like, okay, if I know I'm going to run this for 3 years, I'm not going to pay $2.46 a month. I'm going to pay $34 a month. You have an upfront cost, but you know, you can kind of mix and match again where your budget is. All this stuff, all these budgeting things are putting the customer in control to understand and manage their billing, which is one of the key concepts of cloud. And that's why they spend 16% of their questions talking about these various pieces of it. So, okay, I want to jump back. I'm going to do a couple of quick questions. I just like to end each of our topics going through some of these questions. Oh, so there are limits, but so there's budget types and numbers. So you can tell it how many servers is going to run up or what type of instances are going to be. And you also say, if you get to $1,000 in a month, basically shut everything down, which is probably the worst thing you could possibly do, because then all of a sudden everything just goes away. But there might be cases where you have a very strict budget limit and you can actually put the dollar amounts into it. Okay, so here's a question, and I don't always expect you to know the answer, but part of this is to help us understand how to read the question. So which of the following EC2 services can be run without a charge under the free tier? So any single EC2 instance type, as long as it runs for less than 1 hour per day. Well, that definitely can be an answer, right? If I'm only running it 1 hour a day, it's going to be free.
Right.
But that might not be the right answer. Any EC2 instance type, as long as it runs for less than 75 hours per month. Actually, I take that back, because the only thing that qualifies, I can't run a 16 CPU Windows server under the free tier. So when it says any single EC2 instance type, that goes down to the size of those CPUs and the operating system. We can't run those. Even if we're going to run it for 1 day, it's probably not going to be free because of the operating system costs and the size of the CPU. So these two are incorrect because it says any single instant type. And we know instant type is those numbers of those huge CPUs and huge amounts of RAM. And those are never going to be under the free tier, even in your first 12 months. So the next one is a single T2 micro instance run for 750 hours per month. T2 instance type. So this is saying you have more than one running for a total of $750 per month, or 750 hours per month. So we know it's 750. And we now know from looking at it that T2 micro is the free tier one. The difference between these is that this is a single one running for 750 hours per month. This says a combination, and I didn't cover that, but you can actually have 2 micro CPU instances running at the same time, but they can only run for half the month.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd only be like 275, right, or 375 or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that each. Okay.
Right. So the correct answer, according to the book, is this one here, D. But I would make the case that this one is also correct, because if I ran one single instance for 750 hours, it would also be free. They're looking for the best answer. And I think they're trying to say that you have a total of 150 and you can run as many instances as you want, as long as the total does not exceed that 750. So this one, and I should have caught it earlier, as soon as you see any type or any single, any is like a wild card, and you have to start thinking, does this really allow a wild card? So as soon as I see free tier and I see any, I probably should have immediately little red flag go off going, okay, that's not the case. I can't run any single one. But these bottom two are kind of pretty close. And I would have probably answered C, because I probably would have missed the fact that it says instances and then it says total. But D is the correct one for the book, but I would argue that C is also one. You can argue all you want. Amazon's not going to give you credit for C, but that's one of the things that goes along with it. Okay, so this is another type of question. These I consider the hardest ones. So this is where it says select two. What two services can you use to deploy a web service on EC2 and remain in the free tier? So we already know, we try to do S3 as a free tier and we never got it. We got it down really cheap, but we're pretty sure we can't do S3 no matter what size in the free tier. Any type of storage, even though it's only going to cost a couple pennies, is not free. We know that the T2 micro instance of an instance is free, so we can go ahead and say that one. These we did not get to today, block stores, so you would have to know what that one is. Okay, so we already ruled out this one. We know it's one of these. Which of these has the fewer number of gigabytes? 2 times 20 is 40. That has 30. So I probably just go ahead and pick B and C, and that would be the right answer.
Okay.
So this is where playing around becomes helpful, because you would know when because we did it today, and whether you paid attention, when we clicked the S3, I think I put in 10 gigabytes and it was like, what, 26 cents a month? There was never a free.
Yeah, there wasn't a free
right.
option at all. Yeah.
Right. So that one doesn't come on. These are also storage devices that must have some free component that comes along with it. We probably need to play around with them because I'm just not too familiar with those pieces of it. Okay, the next one. Which of the following usages will always be free even after the 12-month free tier is expired? Select two. 1 million API gateways, we showed you that part of it. I was pretty sure that one was free. We didn't cover Glacier. That's a storage device that is really slow. 100 gigabytes of free storage and Elastic Cloud Registry we didn't cover. 10 customer in CloudWatch we didn't cover. So you would not know the answers, and there's really even no way to start guessing on this one. Before I knew the answer, I thought that we were guaranteed one free 1 million, which is not the case. Because you have to be careful on the API types of calls. So there's some traffic issues with that one. CloudWatch, this one is free. So you do need to understand that CloudWatch, they want you monitoring your tools. I mean, that's Amazon wants you to be secure and safe. So they're going to give you these 10 customer monitoring metrics and alarms for your CloudWatch. So that one's going to be free. And that's something you just want to commit to memory, that CloudWatch has these free monitoring and metrics. It's 10. So if I have more than 10 services, I'd have to start paying for it, but they want you to be secure. So they're going to make that part free. And the other one that makes this free is this Glacier one, which again, we didn't cover any of these top three in depth. So you wouldn't have known the answer, but this one, you do need to know that for the test. You'll need to know how many the CloudWatch, that'll show up on almost every exam, the CloudWatch piece. I think we got one more here, or maybe two more. Which tools are available to ensure you do not accidentally run past your free tier limits and incur unwanted costs? Select two again, which are always, you have to get both right. They don't give you half credit. So if I got one right and one wrong, you get 0 for the whole thing, which is kind of annoying.
It's multiple choice?
Yeah. So so on this one, you're going to pick 2 out of these 3. On the test, it would give you a square box to know that you have multiple, but you need to make sure that it's, because if I only select one, I get it wrong no matter what. Even if I got the one right, you don't get it. So that's one of those kind of gotchas here. So automated email alerts and thresholds. We talked about Amazon wants to make it pretty easy for you. So we can usually assume alerts is going to be something that'll provide us with it. Free tier service usage, billing, and usage section of billing and cost management dashboard. There really, I don't think there is a, no, actually I take that back. There is no free tier dashboard and there's no billing preference dashboard. So I probably should have just showed you the titles on those pages, but we were in the billing and cost management dashboard. So I think if I come back here.
Yeah, I was going to ask what they're all relatively similarly worded. So what's the difference?
Yeah,
What I mean?
that's kind of those one that you just, by being in here, you would know what it is. And I don't even see the dashboard even listed in here. I thought it would tell you. Let's go ahead and create estimate. Let's see what it tells you. I don't even see the dashboard listed as a name inside of here. Let's
Okay.
just do a quick add, configure, add to my estimate, see what it says on this one. AZ pricing calculator, and it doesn't even give you the other one in there. So this, some of these questions are going to be hard because unless you were in there, and even here we're in it, we don't even know what the right answer is, but it's the top two here. It's this automated alert one and the billing and cost management dashboard. And I just knew that because that's what I used to look at to see where I was paying my bills at. I knew there was no billing. I know there was no top free dash. The free tier only exists for a month, so they wouldn't make a dashboard. And it's not preference. It's just your billing and cost management. There's no preference component to it. So I knew just because I'd been in there, and that's just one of the things that was going to be kind of figure out what the right amount of time for you guys spending in the AWS console is going to be, so that some of this stuff just kind of triggers. You can memorize this. I mean, I could give you readings that will tell you how, how to answer this stuff. But for now, we're just going to go and stick with that. And the last question here is, which is the following is most likely to have an accurate AWS pricing information? Wikipedia, user base, never gonna have, but there is pricing on the Wikipedia. If you go look at some of the Wikipedia pages, yeah. Command line interface is not pricing. That's a tool you would use to get on some of your EC2 instances and type stuff up. Total cost of ownership is not going to tell you pricing. It's just going to tell you how that whole cost is. So it's really the online documentation related to the service. So when I go into that individual ones, like I was creating the accounts for back here, these pages, if I click this is my product page. This is where the pricing comes in. So as soon as I put in, see, here it is. This is interesting. 1 million free APA calls received free with free tier. Didn't we just say that that was not the right answer?
Yeah.
It's possible the book is outdated, and we're going to get more current testing. So we're going to get the latest tests. So it's some of the stuff, I guess, got to be careful that we're not telling you the wrong stuff, because this is telling me that 1 million free stuff. But the pricing stuff is on here as actually back to here. These are the product pages. So my estimate and the pricing configures in that part of it. I don't think that I did a very good job covering some of that pricing stuff. I think my experience, the stuff has changed in here that maybe I'm not familiar. So I'm going to have to get myself familiar with some of these pricing components that come along with it. But I still think that the basic lines is how it's billed by the hour, by your size of your machines, how much data, how much traffic. You're going to configure all that stuff to get a price for your. So this one, the answer is the online documentation for C. But so I know I went a little bit over. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording this one first here. Stop.